Welcome to the Mindset Architect podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with reTHINK Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, episode number 97. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at reTHINK Coaching. And as always, I want to thank you for sharing your time with me. Time truly is our greatest asset. And the fact that you're willing to share your time with me truly does mean a great deal. So today, I want to talk about something that I'm not sure we've ever talked about. And it's really important for your growth on your journey towards your goals, whether it's business or life or anything else. And we spend a lot of time, or I have spent a lot of time having conversations with you about your thoughts driving all results. And I firmly believe in that. And I've lived it. I've experienced it. I've coached to it. I've seen the impact that thoughts can have on our results, sometimes greater than actions, because our actions are also a result of our thoughts. So the one thing that I haven't really talked about is what happens to the old thoughts. Do they ever go away? Do old thoughts go somewhere to die? And we haven't talked about it. So I want to dedicate this episode to having a conversation around that. So number one, if you're not familiar with what I have taught around thoughts and how thoughts drive all results, go take a listen to episode number 70. It's titled Thoughts Drive All Results. You'll be able to get up to speed on the thought flow model that we use here at reTHINK Coaching and the model that I've used in my life for 15 years now that has made the greatest difference in my success in multiple businesses and in my life. So I'm going to invite you to go take a listen to that if you're not familiar with the thought flow model. Now, I want to talk though about we use these systems to help us manipulate our thoughts, right? To change our thoughts, to serve us better, to go from disempowering to empowering thoughts. But the question that I get asked always is, I've done the work, I understand, I know thoughts drive all results, I have reframed, I have restructured, I've done everything I'm supposed to do, but those old thoughts still come back. And I think that can be frustrating if your expectation is that the old thoughts we have are going to die once you replace it with a new thought. And I remember distinctly sitting in a training room early on in my coaching career when we were talking about this specific thing. And my coach mentor at the time said, I just want to make sure you understand something. Those thoughts, disempowering or empowering, will be with you the rest of your life. They don't go away. So taking those negative thoughts to your grave is the reality of it. Now, through our work and what we're going to talk about today, we're going to give you some more tools to manage those. But what I do know is that through managing them, they happen less frequently and they dissipate quicker. And that is because I'm aware of them and I know what to do in the moment to get rid of that and move it into an empowering situation. So remember this, we have 60,000 thoughts a day on average. So some of you might have more, some might have less. Latest studies are we're moving up towards 80, 90,000 thoughts a day just because of the amount of data that we're exposed to on the daily between social media, news feeds, podcast, all of the stuff that's getting us information at our fingertips 24/7. So we may be actually having more than just 60,000 thoughts a day. Out of those 60,000 thoughts, 80% are negative. I just need you to process that for a second. 60,000 thoughts, 80% are negative. That means 48,000 thoughts per day are negative and 12,000 are positive or empowering, disempowering. I really want you to let that sink in for a minute and show yourself some grace that this might be why those old negative thoughts keep coming back up. Those old disempowering thoughts show up when you don't want them to, but they do. And to top it off, 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. So they've happened over and over and over and over. And that's really important for you to understand as we move forward through this episode, because you're going to have a better understanding that those thoughts don't go away and die. We get the choice on how we want to process and handle them. So the number one thing I want to talk about is your old thoughts aren't facts, all right? They're just familiar. Think about that. 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. So we're carrying them forward day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Those thoughts have been ingrained since we were little kids, and they flow with us through life until the very end. So the old thoughts aren't necessarily facts. They're just really familiar to you. And the brain likes familiar. The brain doesn't like unfamiliar or new. It views those as a threat. So when we get into a situation of different, uncomfortable growth, your brain is going to get busy working, crafting some of those old thoughts to pull you back to comfortable. So it's not necessarily that they're factual, they're comfortable. So the brain will continue to have them. What I do when that happens, right, is realize that the brain has rehearsed this over and over and over and over, and it is just acting on its own, like on autopilot and getting comfy and cozy. I will certainly stop that thought and just address, is it really serving me? Is that thought serving me? I kind of call it out like a lie. Hey, is this true or just familiar? And there's a huge difference when you just ask that one question, is it true or is it familiar? And you're going to find out that it's just a familiar thought, not necessarily true, and we can dispel it pretty quickly. I've introduced one of my other favorite models that I use when I'm struggling with negative thoughts is the Byron Katie 4 questions. And I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but when I have a negative thought that's really strong, I will ask myself 4 simple questions. Is the thought true? Number 1. In the heat of the moment, I'm likely to say, yes, it's true, right? Because I am in it. I am in a space where that is really holding a lot of weight. And so I may believe it's true. The second question I will ask myself is that thought 100% true? Is it always true? What I know is nothing's 100%. So that if I'm stuck in the space that I believe the thought is true, and then I ask that second question, it kicks open the door of possibility for it not to be true. And that is what we need to do. We need to create the space for a different thought, one that's a little bit more empowering. The third question I ask is, if I choose to hold on to that thought, who will I be and how will I show up? So if I'm holding on to a negative thought about my success or about what I'm going to do next, it's going to impact how I show up. I'm going to show up tilted. I'm going to show up in a negative space. I'm going to show up and not want to do anything. That is how I'm going to show up if I allow myself to hold on to the thought being true. Yet we've already dispelled it's not 100% true and there's other options. So in that space, I can now ask myself the question, so now that I know it's not 100% true, how could I show up? Well, I could show up powerful. I could show up intentional. I can show up determined. I can show up motivated. That little glimmer of possibility all of a sudden creates a different opportunity for me and how I'm going to show up. So powerful. So powerful. So is it true? Is it 100%? Who do I show up when I hold on to that thought? Who could I be with my new thought, knowing it's not 100% true? And then I decide my way forward, basing it on the new way that I get to show up. So number one thing is thoughts aren't facts. They're familiar. Just embrace that and know it, because they're going to continue to show up for you. No matter how much work we do, they're just going to continue to show up. The number two thing that I like to do is I like to label the loop and not live in it. So what does that mean? I name it. I give it power, right? Because when I name it, I get to have power over it. Untitled thoughts get to do whatever they want to do. They just kind of run around because we're not really calling them out. So I love this. I will notice, hey, I'm running a fear loop right now. Or, hey, I'm running a frustration loop. I name what the loop is, or worse is I'm using a comparison script right now. It's usually a negative thought, like I suck, look at how great they are. I tried that and failed. They're successful. What's wrong with me? So labeling the loop is really important. It kind of acknowledges the energy that the thought has. And as soon as I label it, I take the power back, because I now look at it differently. I don't let it control me. I'm going to control the narrative on it. So just acknowledging and naming the loop can be really helpful. And then for me personally, I like to thank it. I'm like, okay, that was really cute. And that is not true. I'm moving on. So I will thank the loop and I will move forward. So, and I do this a bit during the day, team, is I just say, hey, that's really cute, but not right now. Or that's really cute. It is absolutely not true. Here's the truth. I got to go. And so I do acknowledge it. I mean, the brain's doing its best it can do to protect you. That's what it thinks it's doing. So I want to acknowledge that, yet I don't want to live in it. So label the loop. Number 3, install a thought filter. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every thought deserves your attention. If we're focused on where we're headed and what we're doing, and we have a belief that what we're doing is going to work for us, we can take away, again, some of the power. So not every thought deserves your attention. I like to use a mental filter, and I will say, hey, does this help me grow, solve, or lead? Does that disempowering thought help me grow, solve, or lead? If it doesn't, I know that I can release that thought and reframe it to powerful, positive thought. So I'll ask myself, hey, was that thought helpful? Is holding on to that thought that I'm operating out of fear or frustration, is that helpful? Is it true? And is it really mine? Or am I taking on what others maybe have said? I think we've all had this happen before where we're sharing what our intention is or what our goals are. And we might share a little bit of frustration about it. And somebody may say to you, well, what in the world made you think you could do that? That's just not possible. And we'll take that on as a thought of our own. Our brain's like, hey, that's right. Let me go find a familiar thought that supports that. Oh, yeah, here's one. You always fail. So we need to ask ourselves the question, helpful, true, and does it really belong to me? Is it one of my thoughts? Or did somebody else impose their thought about what I could do on me? Here's the newsflash. When somebody does that, they're really projecting their insecurity onto you. So they're thinking, I don't have the courage that she has or he has or they have. And therefore, I want to diffuse what they're doing because I don't want them to be able to do something I'm not able to do. Or it scares me, so I'm going to make it scare them. So just know that there are times that the thought isn't yours. It can come from parents, friends, peers, strangers, whoever you're presenting to, whoever you're talking to, whatever your communication is with or whoever. A lot of times we take that on. So just really install a thought filter to figure out where that thought is not serving you. All right. Most negative thoughts are not helpful. They're not true, and they may not be yours. Number 4, flip the script, do a reframe. You know, the 4 questions, the Byron Katie model is probably the best way to flip the script. You know, is it true? Is it 100% true? When you go through that, it allows your brain, when you kick open the door of possibility and you define who you can be without that thought, who you can be with the different version of it, the empowering version of it, that is probably the easiest way to flip the script and to reframe the thought. You know, they will happen in a split second. So you have a thought, a neuron fires, goes down a neural pathway and it extracts information as how to process the thought. I talk about this where, you know, your thought becomes a story because that's how your brain is going to process it and make it make sense. So the first thought we have may be negative. Pure numbers, team. Think about it. 80% of our thoughts are negative, 20% are positive. There's a greater likelihood that in a time of stress or at a time when things are challenging or new or different, that they're probably going to be negative. So the first thought you have may be the thought that's not going to serve you. And you can't control it because it happens on an unconscious level. Your brain is thinking, oh, here's a moment. Let me go ahead and toss this little hand grenade out and let them know the danger that they're headed into so I can protect them so they don't do it. That a lot of times is our first thought, simply based on the percentages. 80% are negative. So that first thought we really can't control. It will happen. But what we can do is choose the second thought we're going to have. So if I'm in the process of doing something new, which I've shared with all of you, I'm doing a project that is really pushing my limits, and I've had fear show up a bit. I've had self-doubt show up a bit. And it happens in a nanosecond. And I'm like, Are you kidding me? With all the training I have, that's the first thought you're going to have, but I can reframe it. So even though I'm fearful, I'm learning how to excel in this area. It's giving me a bit of a reframe. I'm acknowledging that this is a different experience. Yet what I'm also then doing is I'm tagging onto it the positive, powerful part of it. So yes, I am frustrated. And I know I'm frustrated because I have such deep passion for this project that it excites me to work through this. All right. That's a way that we can flip the script and reframe. So do not buy into the first thought you have. Sometimes they're good. 80% chance it's not going to be empowering. Number 5, anchor to the good. Don't just chase it. All right. So what does that mean? We tend to remember the negative easier than we do the positive because the negative resonate with us so deeply. I mean, sit back and think about it. Like a lot of the times, and this is where I love practicing gratitude. A lot of the times we only remember the bad that's happened that day, that moment, and we forget about all of the great things that we've done that has moved us to where we are. The negative resonates deeper with us than the positive. Think about the percentage again. If I'm 80% in the negative, it's going to resonate with me deeper than the smaller percent of time that I spend in the positive. So it makes sense, right? So here's what I would say. When something positive happens, even if it's not exactly the outcome that you wanted, even if it's not exactly the action you wanted to take it, that something happened and you got a little derailed, I want you to pause for a moment and acknowledge the positive part, right? Hey, I attempted it. I failed. But you know what? I at least took a stab at it. And here's what I've learned from it. So anchor to the good. Just reward yourself for doing something. Doesn't matter if it worked or it didn't work. You actually took action. So reward yourself. Pause, breathe it in. You may anchor, like in that moment, you may just anchor what that feeling is like and just say, hey, I'm going to remember this amazing feeling where it released all of the feel good hormones because I did something great, or I even did something, right? That's a win. And I'm going to anchor into that feeling of gratitude. I'm going to anchor into that feeling of in the moment, those feel good hormones got released and they allowed me to move forward. The next thing, number 6, is really, visualize the upgrade, not the escape. And I want you to think about that. You're trying to get rid of the old thoughts, but they're there with you for life. They're ingrained deep, right? They're the neural pathway in your brain that is carved the deepest because they're happening most often and they're 80% of our thoughts. But what you can do is give your mind a new direction. So I think of it like a detour, all right? So I drive the same path to my yoga studio every day. Every day, I go the same way, same way, same way. I could go drive, literally, not literally with my eyes closed, but I can get there without thinking, right? There's a lot of times I get there and I was like, oof, did I stop at that red light? And it's just because that is carved deeply in my brain. I know what to do. Well, if I was driving to the yoga studio one day and there was a detour sign, all of a sudden that would snap me into awareness and I'd have to concentrate differently. All right. I'd have to concentrate on where am I going? Where's the next detour sign? Is there a speed bump? Is there a school zone? What's going on? And I have to pay attention because that new detour is not as comfortable as the old way I went. Now, living in Santa Fe, detours don't last a day. They usually last a year. You start to get used to that new path, right? It becomes as familiar as the old pathway. But guess what? One day they're going to pull that detour sign up and the old pathway is still there. That is what is happening in your brain. Those old negative thoughts are still there. That highway, that neural pathway is carved deep, but we get to choose a detour. And at first, it may feel uncomfortable. At first, you may question if you're going to get there, right? Because it's a new route, a new way of thinking. But this is where you can visualize an upgrade to your thoughts. You can visualize a new direction. So that's the best comparison I can give to you as to what we do when we're creating a new neural pathway or a new positive thought. And we're wanting to shut down the old one. It will never shut down. However, if you work at it diligently, the new pathway can eventually become as deep as the old, and you're more likely to stay on it, even though the old one may pop up every once in a while. And the last thing I'm going to say, number 7, is flood your mind on purpose. Your brain's like a sponge. And this is what I love, neuroplasticity, right? Your brain is not just this fixed thing. And we can take control over what's going on. Can't eliminate it, but we can take control of it. So here's what I know is if you don't program your brain the direction you want it to go, your past will. It just will. And your past is going to go to old comfortable. 92% of what we do as human beings is conditioned habitual behavior. I didn't say healthy. I didn't say functional. I didn't say great. It's just conditioned habitual behavior. So if we don't take control on programming the thoughts we would like to have, your brain will, and it's going to default to those old behaviors and those old thoughts. And it will most likely lean more towards limiting, lean more towards negative, because that's where it's comfortable. It's comfortable in the past. So take control, be intentional. I love to do this every morning. For me, is the time that I spend the greatest amount of time in my thoughts. So I get up, I journal, I meditate, I go to yoga. That's just my jam. And I spend a bit of time acknowledging some of the negative thoughts that are bubbling up just because, for no particular reason, they just are. And I work through those using the thought flow model. And I talk about that in episode 70, and I talk about it in episode number 1. So for me, getting intentional and flooding my mind on purpose with good thoughts will really help me move forward throughout the day. Now, here's what I know. As the day goes on and stuff happens, because life happens, business happens, stuff happens, a negative thought will pop up. And because I'm so skilled at immediately identifying it and working through the models, I can diffuse it pretty quickly. Still there, team, after 15 years of studying NLP, being a master practitioner of NLP, being a trainer's training of NLP, doing energy work around NLP, negative thoughts still show up. They're going to be with me till the day I die. So think about this. Your brain's not broken. It's just been practicing the wrong thing, the wrong pattern for a long time. And you can think of it as wrong or unintentional, right? It's just how the brain is working to protect us. It thinks it's helping us. It thinks by creating some negative and preventing you from taking action or doing something different, it's actually protecting you. And we have to remind it that that is not protection. So we can figure this out. You can teach your brain new patterns. You really can. I don't know if the percent ever changes, the 80-20. I don't think it does. What I have realized through my own work for me and the work with my clients is I live in the 20% a greater portion of the time. So if I live in the 20% being good thoughts or empowering thoughts 90% of the time, and I only spend 10% in the negative, my life has changed. Doesn't matter that more of the thoughts are negative. It's where I'm choosing to spend my time in the framework in which I'm intentionally creating to spend more time in the positive. Negative still pops up. It's 80%. I'm choosing what percentage of my time I'm spending in each one of those buckets. So just know that if you become consistent at this and you practice with it, your life will change. It will change. So my journaling, my thought work, my meditation, all of that has made an impact on my success. All of that has made an impact on the joy that I get to experience in my life and my businesses. And it has been the biggest game changer. So just know old thoughts never die. There's not like an old thought graveyard where you can go bury those thoughts. They're going to be with you. You just need to learn how to manage it. So team, like every other time, if you're struggling with this, and trust me, this is a challenging one for a lot of people. It was for me. I was flooded with negative thoughts and I just didn't realize it until it was brought to my attention. Please reach out. Don't struggle alone. You can email me, Tony@rethinkcoaching.com. You can go to my website, rethinkcoaching.com, fill out the little box with your name and contact information for a free 1-hour strategy session. If you fill that out or you email me, that will come directly to me and I will personally get back to you for us to schedule 1 hour together at no cost. I just want to help as many people as I can. You can find me on all the social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. I'm all over the place. but just reach out. Don't be stuck. And if it's something that doesn't have anything to do with this episode and you're still challenged, reach out. I'll help you out. Go make it a great week, and I will talk to you soon.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.